Straight from Boston, it's Founder Thought, the show that has everything from advice, ideas, and inspiration from founders and business owners that made it all happen.
On this episode, Stephanie and Oz speak with Pascal Kreische and Morgan Abraham, co-founders of Smoothie, a company empowering healthy habits with their proprietary self-service smoothie maker.
So thanks everybody for joining. This is Stephanie.
Hi, this is Oz.
And welcome to Founder Thought. So today we're talking with the founders of Smoothie, Pascal and Morgan. So the first question is, obviously, we want to get to know you guys. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why don't we start one by one? Pascal, you can start. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Perfect. Yes, I'm a mechanical engineer from Germany, if you wonder where my accent is from. I came to the US 4 years ago for my MBA. And also that was the time when I started working on Smoothie. Luckily, I met Morgan pretty soon after starting that journey. And I worked in consulting beforehand, strategy consulting at BCG, and also 2 years in Mexico. And I think throughout my career, I always tried to learn all the skills to be an entrepreneur. I think now I think about it differently. I think there's so much you learn on the way, and you just have to do it. And every time I talk to founders or people who tell me I want to go to consulting, I tell them, consider if you can't do it now. Obviously, I think all the skills I learned throughout my career helped me get to where I am now. But I think the sooner you can start before getting comfortable and living the entrepreneurial lifestyle, it's just, for me, it's the best I could do.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Absolutely. And Morgan, you're an engineer as well.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, so I actually am not as far away from here as Pascal, where he grew up. I actually grew up in Cambridge, born here in Boston. But I kind of did a whole boomerang around the East and West Coast throughout my life, and now I'm back here. Met this guy a few years ago, and we started the business together here in Cambridge and Boston and Somerville. So
amazing.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a lot of similarities in the way we kind of look at things, but we also have some differences, and I think that really helps build what we've done as a business. Both my parents are doctors, so that's really inspired me to help people live better, do better things. I've always been a hands-on person. I love tinkering since I was a little kid. First taking things apart, and then eventually I learned how to put them back together. It was a little bit of a discrepancy in ages between when I knew how to do the two different things, but I used to build computers in high school. That's where I started my entrepreneurial bug, where I started building computers for my father, his colleagues, then building a small business over the summers in between high school. Building computers, and then...
So who's mechanical engineer? Morgan, mechanical engineer? Or
Morgan is electrical, I'm mechanical.
Mechanical. Actually, I went for school for mechanical engineer, but I did not finish it. I went actually for Izmir, Ege University in Turkey. I went to actually study for a year and a half, but I did not finish. I love math, so mechanical engineering for me, it's amazing. It's amazing, but I did not finish, unfortunately. So let me ask you, what inspired you guys?
Yeah, the interesting thing for us is we actually both worked on the same idea separately from each other, and then we met through a common contact, and just took it from there. So I think we both have our individual stories, but we started with the same vision and mission. So for me, I was actually working on a different startup idea. It was during my first semester of the MBA. My wife wanted to get one of those small blenders, like a magic bullet. And I told her, don't buy it. We won't use it because we have to clean it. And then 2 weeks later, she bought it anyways. I started using it every morning. I was so happy before I didn't make the time for breakfast. And I started making my smoothie and feeling empowered. And I was just there, just so happy. It's hard to describe. You just have to feel it. And when I was sitting there, I was working on this other idea on cryptocurrencies. That was 3 or 4 years back when there was this first big hype in cryptocurrencies. And I had this moment of reflection because I didn't feel I was the right person to do it. There was no founder market fit, although I was really interested in the space. And when I was thinking about what makes me happy, what's my skill set, being a mechanical engineer, how can I leverage my skill set to actually share that moment of happiness that I had discovered for myself with more people. And that's how the idea started. And then I looked more into it and I got really excited.
Amazing.
So, it's a really cool concept.
It is actually, I looked at the concept online. It looks like very simple. It sounds very simple. Actually, I was speaking with Stephen. I told her the concept sounds very simple, but it's not easy for somebody to think about. It's very simple, but not easy to think about. So how guys you came up with the idea?
Yeah, adding to that, this was an idea, one of few ideas I had when I was young professional. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was working as an engineer for a bunch of consulting firms before that, but I knew I wanted to start my own business. And I had this idea of this self-cleaning smoothie vending machine. It was actually very complicated device initially. And the funny thing is Pascal and I had the exact same idea initially with this very complicated thing, almost like a Coca-Cola freestyle with all these chutes and ladders and almost like one of those Rube Goldberg machines for your smoothies. And really what got me going actually was my two things. My friends loved the idea. Everyone loved the idea. But then what really sold me on it was I had really bad cholesterol. My family has bad cholesterol dating back at least 2 generations in our medical history. And my doctor said I had to do something. I was 27 at the time. So I just started, while I was like playing with this idea. I started drinking a smoothie every day just to see what would happen and experimenting with eating well and drinking a smoothie every day. And my cholesterol went from 171, the LDL level, to 117 in less than a month. Wow. And the doctor said she'd never seen it in 30 years. And I was actually more excited about the implication than actually from what happened to me. So I was like, all right, this. I'm sold on the idea. We have to go all in. And again, we had this crazy idea of, building this giant machine. That's like, all the customization. And that's what people said that what they wanted. And I think one of the early lessons I learned in this journey was people will say one thing. And, Henry Ford has the saying, if I listened to my customer, I would have a faster horse-drawn carriage. And I probably butchered that. But yeah, it's something along those lines. And so people said they wanted customization. They wanted to make these smoothies. But when we went to the trade show, like our first pilot where we kind of put this concept cart out in the streets of New York City, I was there then, with all these different flavors, all fresh, beautiful, bright colors of smoothies. And it was like, I want this one, this one, this one. I wanted everything. Well, when you put a lot of bright colors together in a blender, it turns brown.
Especially if you add kale to it.
So everyone's looking like, this is disgusting, or this doesn't taste good. I'm like, the ingredients are good. Like, it's your fault for doing it. It's like, but no, it was my fault for letting them have so much choice. So that was sort of, let's simplify this. Let's really make something that's very easy where you have customization, but it's within a certain set of parameters. So you don't get this dilemma. You don't end up with something bad. We make it so you can't mess it up. And that was sort of the fundamentals of how we built this very simple device, because it wasn't simple. There were a lot of different, ways we could have built it.
But it looks very simple because you have...
simple to use.
Yeah, very,
maybe not simple to design.
You grab it and this one, it's right.
You grab it, scan it. So that's new with COVID. We actually made it touchless. Put it in the machine. You can then select the thickness. So that's one lever of customization. Machine blends in a minute, cleans up afterwards, and then every 4 hours it's self-sanitized.
It sounds very simple, but I don't think it's that simple. I think it's very complicated.
I'm glad you say it sounds simple, because our idea was always to make the user experience as simple as possible.
Make user experience
because if you lose people throughout the process, then you already lost that customer. Yeah, but absolutely. I think what's interesting is, as Morgan and I met, we had approached the same problem from very different angles. Morgan had been doing prototypes right away and really figured out that it's really difficult to have this freestyle machine where you have dispensing of chunks of frozen fruits and vegetables. When I wanted to start building something, all my professors at business school told me, don't build. They probably anyways thought I was crazy doing that. It's not the traditional path doing food and the hardware component. They said, go into offices, test your assumptions. So we were just going with a camping cooler, serving smoothies, and also finding out the same thing as Morgan said, that people want to customize, but within boundaries. And then they also told us they actually they loved that they were seeing everything, because we had magic bullets, we made it right in front of them. It was just transparent. And that was another key design feature that we implemented in our machine, having something that is customizable to a certain limit. So we're adding boosters down the road, so you can actually add protein or chia seeds to your smoothie. So it's really, there's an element to this agency. People feel empowered if they grab the cup, they add the booster, put it in there. So we take out all the hassle, but they still have agency in this process. That's important. And then also showing them everything. When kids go into our store, a store with our machine, they first go perhaps for the sugary chocolate bar, and then they see the process of a smoothie being blended. They hear the chunks flying around. They get amazed. They stare at it, get a smoothie, taste it, suddenly love it. There's no added sugar, but they just fall in love with it, and you can imagine how happy the parents are.
Yeah,
the kids
go for the healthy choice.
And I think that's one of the biggest features of our machine is that transparency, like any other machine out there. And that was the biggest resistance we got. So we have to go back, when I was first working on this idea, this was 2017, 2018. Pascal, you were 2018. Back then, this was before COVID. This was during fast casual, service restaurants where it was all about human interaction. The biggest pushback I got early on about this concept was sounds great. I see the utility of this, the business opportunity, but customers want that human interaction. They really want to be around people. And so there was this big pushback. So I'm like, how am I going to overcome this? And also, people don't want something coming out of a machine. They don't trust that. This was everything was Coca-Cola, McDonald's. Anything coming out of the machine was sugar and concentrates. So how do we really show that? No, it's not. And you can't just say that. You have to really show it and demonstrate it. So having this transparent machine really was the way we kind of overcame that problem and also built this really cool user experience and, you know, translate it to today when really that is the trend now. That is really everyone wants to be fast on the go, avoid human contact, but still have a great experience and be healthy. Like then this really kind of is the culmination of all of that.
Yeah, so we work actually with a company where they do something similar. I think the challenge with them, and people, especially in the COVID situation, people want to see what's happening. I really think people, also because I go by from, you know, Jambiju, like you don't know what's inside. Like they add the stuff, you really never know because you don't see it. They just mixing stuff together. Sometimes does not come the way.
It comes out of a box.
And most of the time actually never the same taste. Even if
it's not consistent.
Not never the same taste. So from your machine looks very simple. Because what I love the idea behind it, because it's like you grab it from me, it's done. It's very simple, very easy. So what challenges guys you face in the beginning?
All of them.
So
we like to joke that from all businesses you can pick, we pick the worst of the worst because we have the food business that has challenges with a frozen supply chain on the cups and then a hardware component. Yeah. So we kind of check all the boxes you don't want to check.
On top of that, we're in the food industry. Next to medical devices, it is the hardest device to get certified. In some ways, it's worse because of the medical device. It's in a controlled environment with one user. Our machine's in the public, and there's so many unknowns that you can't even account for. So, I mean, we've had to go through all of the certification processes.
It took us a lot of generations and iterations to get there. Yeah. And sometimes we thought, now we got it. Like last we thought we got it, put it out there, it did not work. It did not work the way we wanted, and we are perfectionists, so we actually, before we really launched it in a lot of locations, we wanted to get it right first. Because there are a lot of startups out there that would just raise a lot of money, build a lot of machines, because investors ask you to deploy a lot of machines, get revenue as fast as possible. But we said, what is the next thing we need to prove? How many machines do we need for that? And usually it was 1 or 2 machines of each generation. Put it out there as fast as possible, even if it's too early. Learn and really help us validate the right requirements, what is the right market, build up our supply chain. And now actually we're just at this exciting point where we're scaling up.
And how many places you are in right now?
How many machines we've built? So we've almost built 20 machines to date of this current generation.
And let me ask you, you building the machine, yes?
So up until now, the first 15 we built ourselves. We did all in house. We have our own shop here in Somerville. It was about 40,000 square feet that we've been able to. It was an amazing opportunity that I wouldn't find anywhere outside of Boston, really.
Shout out to Artisans Asylum.
Yes, Artisans Asylum. It was they're moving actually, so it was kind of a good timing. They actually are technically closed right now. They shut down in August. They're moving to Alston, so there's a little bit of a lull period. But this was like perfect for us to transition to contract manufacturing. And we've looked at a lot of different channels there, and we can update you guys once we've kind of found it. But we've got it playing with about 3 or 4 different options with contract manufacturing, doing it ourselves, doing it locally with a third-party individual, and then doing it overseas at high volume. And we've tested every avenue. And I would just say the biggest learnings that I've had is people can kind of give you a cookie cutter advice, especially in startups, and it might work for your run-of-the-mill startup. And I don't want to sound like degrading them, but there's a lot of startups that can cash out, get to a Series A, do something a little bit different, and find a market niche, and then cash out, and then down to the next one. But if you really want to make a big business that fundamentally changes something, you really need to think for yourself. You need to dig deeper. Again, you don't just listen to what the surface of people say. And the best advice is you need to go from people I think the 2 things that I found is go from people who've already done it, who've already lived the dream. So and have been through not lived the dream, actually been through the trenches, and then finally found the dream the last 5% of the journey. But we found people in some of the bigger industries that are companies that have been successful in this space, like Keurig and Nespresso. I'm talking to the people who founded that, people who ran those businesses, brought them on as advisors, mentors, even investors to help us avoid certain pitfalls and realize we didn't need to do as much in the product development and what a venture capitalist would tell you to do. Really just get a few to prove the point. Really build a few machines to prove the model out. Don't just outsource it right away, which is what we thought we would do. And that was not good either, because people don't have the same vision you have. You think you can just translate it to a professional, they'll know what to do and they'll build it for you. And that was one of the biggest lessons. No, they don't. They don't know what you want to do. There's a lot of complication. They do it their way, but you're doing something different. Even if it seems simple to you, it's not simple to them. And so that was one of the big lessons. And then get out and test it. And you don't need a lot to test. You just need a few data points, but you need to get those data points and prove your assumptions, put them on the head. Things that you thought would be really hard to turn out being super easy. Things that you thought would just be a piece of cake or would take for granted end up being your biggest fundamental roadblocks. But I would say when you do all of that, what it comes down to this really complicated thing you say, it actually becomes very simple. And actually, you know, I've had these things that I would spend months debating on. I realized would just take 1 hour of work, setting it to the right person, giving the right task, and it was taken care of. But, you know, it took all of that sorting it out, all of that figuring out to send that one email with those detailed instructions to get that problem and pinpoint it on its head. And that's the challenge of, like, you know, what we do.
You know,
in this
what
place.
you think is, like, this is obviously me and Stephen, we are entrepreneurs. So we have actually, beside Baby Gang, we have different businesses. We know. Trust me, like, we know, actually, we have a new business also called Zubut. It's a star business also. It's same challenges. It's very similar for all the challenges you say. It's very similar. The plan usually when you develop business plan, you want to go from here to there. You see the goal. But you think it's straightforward, it's not, because it goes like this. You don't know what's the challenge.
You end
And
up winding
100,000,
around.
and you figure out what I think what makes successful entrepreneur Nancy is the people able overcome challenges. People, because some people give up really fast. So what the challenge they came up because a lot of people like, you know, face the challenge, I give up, I'm done. Next the challenge. So what advice for somebody to start a new business or idea? What you would give them advice?
I would say, like, on the challenges, like, stay humble. Like, always observe. Even I think there are a lot of moments where you say, no, I got this. There's something else waiting behind the corner.
Yeah.
Be humble, continue observing, like, observe your customers, ask questions, or just watch them, learn things, and I think be open to get surprised. And I think on what you say on challenges is, imagine you wouldn't have challenges. Life would be boring, no? Getting out of the bed and not having the next challenge. So I think as an entrepreneur, you also probably want to have that personality of getting excited by solving challenges. I don't think it's for everyone, but I think if someone is excited of solving challenges, that's the best job you can have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
And what are your goals for the upcoming year? So you've got a few machines out there. You set up 20, right? Is that what you said? 20.
We built 20.
20.
We're deploying them, we're in the process of deploying them now.
Yeah. So what are your goals for the upcoming years? Where do you guys sort of see this process?
Our goal is always to empower healthy habits. So that's the big goal. And we see actually every moment someone consumes a smoothie is a moment of happiness, and where we actually start.
Is that
help
behind
them.
the name? Is that what smoothie is?
So you could look at it like it's a smoothie that changes your mood. There's the word mood in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, I think, fundamentally our mission. Morgan has a really health-related story. Mine is about happiness. So I think the two together is, we initially always said making people happy and healthier. So for us, what makes our day after the years in the shop building those machines is actually getting them out there and now seeing our customers interact with them. That's just a moment of joy for us. And I think, if we can, I don't know how long it will take us, but if we can reach a million of those moments, and then we set the next goal, I think that's what really, and then I think the financial success comes automatically, but what drives us is really having an impact on
And this is very
absolutely.
big industry, and very big.
Yeah, I have some
industry.
stats on it. I think it said it was 12 billion in 2019, and it's anticipated to touch 17 billion with an annual growth rate of 10% through 2026.
Yeah, 100%.
Big market.
Right now, what we try to be focused. Pick one market. So we're focusing right now on convenience stores because there's an existing frozen supply chain.
Yeah.
It's one decision we made early on. We don't have to do everything ourselves. We can use partners, and there are partners who are like distributors who have frozen warehouses, frozen trucks. So we can plug right into that supply chain without having to build it ourselves. There is a huge demand for healthy, fresh products, and we see it every time we go to a trade show. We're the busiest booth. Everyone comes to us, wants our machines. So we could place 100 machines tomorrow. At the same time, we want to do it right. So we want to place machines. We want to be able to be around, to sample, to interact with people, to tell our story, because we see that resonates. And also, as I said earlier, stay humble and learn. The machine is not perfect. We might learn new things. We now are ramping up a great software team. We're able every 2 weeks, we do a software update on the machine just to make the user experience better every day.
Yeah, I mean, product expansion, feature expansion, there's a lot of things in our playbook that we have. We have a whole manifesto, I would almost call it, of where we see our business 10 years from now. That's really going to fundamentally change the whole food industry. And we see a lot of opportunities there by being in it for so long. And even though we're not food people ourselves, we've been in it for long enough. We've touched on all the different aspects of it. We see where the opportunities lie. And it's pretty profound. And just to touch on it fundamentally, 40% of all food in our country is wasted. That was one of the first things I found out. And, yet there's over 1 billion people starving in our planet right now. Food is one of the most destructive environmental industries in the world. Talk about all this, climate change, which, can touch on everyone's sides, and I won't preach anything, but, food is one of the most related effects on that. Like it's really like, you know, but we need it. We need it to live. So like, how can we change that? And I think a lot of that lies in the distribution. How is the food distributed from point A to point Z? And there's a lot of nodes in between. So how can we bring it all together? How can this fragmented industry that's age old with a lot of different parties come to unify and bring it together? And the means are there. I mean, again, we have more than enough food to feed the whole planet several times, like more than one time. It's just like, it's just how do we get it there, and how can we make it healthier for people?
Let me ask you, who's coming up with the flavor of your smoothie?
Our customers, I would say.
Your
And
customer?
the reason is, I mean, we started experimenting. We had a lot of different flavors.
Yeah.
But the three we offer right now, so it's our green energizer with spinach and matcha, our brain boost that has berries and banana, and then our tropical mango, pineapple, and coconut. Those were really the high runners. So across all these paid pilots we did in the past, we tried different recipes, but those were the ones that people
How
loved.
many days it changed? Like, is it because I still use the refrigerator, how many days it stay? Like, you can use
The
it.
shelf life is 2 years in theory if you don't break the frozen supply chain. That goes back to Morgan's point. I think
Oh, wow.
the frozen supply chain is challenging, but at the same time, it allows you not to waste product. And if we don't sell a product within 2 years, we clearly do something
Is it
wrong.
2 years?
It is 2 years if you don't break the frozen supply chain.
And,
Oh, wow.
and again, we're really our R&D. We started with building machines, the equipment, but really we're investing most of our resources into software at this point. We really see that software is the future, and using these, like, you know, all the feedback, the sensors that we've developed, and not just throwing random IoT devices all over the place, which I think is a trend these days, but really targeting what you need and building it into an integrated unit. And so really owning all of that, and then building that tech that allows us to optimize the whole, like, traceability.
Do you see this is only in the stores, or do you see it in the future it could be sent this for homes?
We've
We got a lot of people reaching out for that. People, every time we did pop-ups on Newberry Street, people always ask, when can I get one for the home?
Because,
There is a market. At the same time, what we see right now, there's such a big opportunity and need in the commercial segment.
Yeah.
Think about gyms, offices, airports, hotels. There's just so many segments where there's just no one to compete with right now. I mean, we would compete with a traditional smoothie bar, but that's high in capex, high in labor, high in space. We need 10 square feet of counter space. That's it. So right now we pick our battles in the commercial segment. We know there's a market for home, but right now you would compete with a magic bullet in a dishwasher.
So I saw actually in the website talking about profitability. So how, like, for the business owner, for convenience store, how this is profitable? Because, like, how much they sell it?
Yeah, so I mean, the retailer sets the price. We sell our cups to the distributor, but what we see at the suggested retail price, usually a location needs to sell 10 smoothies per day, where it makes sense for the retailer, for the distributor, and also for ourselves. In our lease model, they only need to sell 7 smoothies per day. So at the same time, we qualify locations.
and also
If we
that's at the
see-
lowest price point.
Yeah, so if we see a location that is just not the right fit, I mean, for convenience stores right now, it's not any convenience store. We look for clean convenience stores, remodeled ones, in high traffic locations, because that's also where we can have the highest impact. Right now, we don't have enough machines to fulfill the whole demand, so we're ramping that up. So we want to be in the best locations.
And if you take a snapshot of the convenience store industry right now and all the, like, different players along the East Coast that we've spoken to, the convenience store industry is about 150,000 locations across the country. We're looking at about 25% of them are adequate for what we're doing right now.
wow.
So I mean, it's still quite a few, but it's definitely, you know, we're getting rid of, we're already filtering out a bunch of them.
So if somebody here locally wanted to try out a smoothie from one of your machines, where could they go? Is there any places here locally that in
We have a store in Framingham, so that's the closest right now, but we are launching more locations in the next weeks. So they can follow us on Instagram, Get Smoothie,
Oh, wow.
and then check out the next launches.
And we're also
Build and
launching,
buzz. Follow us on Instagram, build and buzz.
yeah, we're actually launching a second region simultaneously. So we're gonna be, because also Boston, we already know that seasonality is gonna play a big factor. So it'll be good for a few months, but we have to be ahead of the curve. So our biggest actually interest lies in the Carolinas. So we were at a few trade shows, and we have one of the biggest convenience store chains and the distributor already lined up. So we are going to be live with them next month, or actually this month, it's September already.
it's September?
Oh yeah, September already for this month.
Yeah, North Carolina, yes? Oh, both of them?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the goal is to have 2 different regions because we will learn different things, and
Yeah.
our goal is to really build a playbook to hit the mainstream market and expand nationwide next year.
And the advantage of North Carolina over Boston, it's you wouldn't think of it, but the public transportation in North Carolina is almost non-existent. And in Boston, we have one of the oldest in North America, one of the oldest in the world of the subway system and public transportation. So everyone commutes, and that actually plays really well to our favor. because people are always on the go, and the convenience store is like, you know, a destination, a much more of a destination place for a lot of these commuters. So,
and one thing I would add, I had a chat with an investor or potential investor earlier today. He was asking, why don't you start in California? And I think that's the easy question. Where I always say, yes, it's a home run in California, and we know that. But we also say we look for the challenge. If we can prove it works in Boston with a tough winter, we can prove it works in North Carolina. Of course, it will work in California. Of course, it will work in Hawaii and so many other regions. But we don't want to settle or just go the easy route. Let's prove it the hard way, and then build up.
Makes sense for other markets.
But also, in some ways, it's the easy way because, like, you know, we are heavy in the ops. We are going to outsource that over the future and bring in the right partners. But at this point, we have to do everything ourselves. So if we're in different time zones, if we're like, you know, hours apart by flight, like that becomes a problem. It's an hour and a half flight around each way to North Carolina.
California 6 hours. But California, actually, I just moved from not just, but I lived in California. This is a huge business. Like a smoothie, it's a huge thing. People like line for any store for a smoothie and this stuff. What else we have for the guys?
I think that's all the questions we had. Is there any other advice that you guys would give people, or anything else, any other learnings, or anything that you can conclude with that might be beneficial for people?
I mean, don't leave any stone unturned. Take every advice you can, but also be able to filter it. Don't just take things for granted. Ask 5 sources for everything, like every major decision, and you know, give yourself time to really think it through. And
I actually do have a question. I'm sorry, Pascal. How you met?
It's a very funny story.
So because the idea, you have the same idea, but guys, you never know each other before. So how you met?
So when I started, a team member of mine, Jane, who also studied at McGill, where Morgan studied, I think they met at an alumni event, and she made the introduction. And it was really weird because initially we thought, like, are we competitors? We were working on the same thing. I had seen some videos of him, but yeah, it wasn't clear. But I think that also showed early on in our DNA, actually, we are very open to do partnerships. So we gave it a chance, and we met. And I thought Morgan was setting up his prototype like in Beacon Hill for a demo. I thought it was in a restaurant. It was already late at night. And then I arrived at this residential building. I thought that's weird. It was 11:30 p.m. I rang the bell and went up to the 5th floor in this dark hallway, and then I'm in front of his apartment. And I thought, that's weird.
Am I regretting this decision?
But then Morgan opened and he showed me his prototype. We made smoothies there. It splayed out everywhere, but really connected over the fact that I think we were so aligned in what we were doing, and we had a good chat. And then it was dating, and we went for drinks. And I think what we did early on was also putting together a partnership agreement where we talked through all this. What happens if after 3 or 4 months we don't like working with each other? What happens to the IP? We did all this. Luckily, nothing of that mattered. Yeah. But I think it was a really good exercise, and we actually started putting in place a founders agreement. And to the earlier question on advice, I think if you're 2 founders, always put together a founders agreement. Talk about the things that are hard to talk about when everything is good, because once it's bad, it's probably really tough. I mean, luckily we did it. And we revisited, and we put down guiding principles. What happens if one of us dies? Like all these things that you don't want to talk about usually. But it really set a good foundation of trust between us. And
that's great. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, I guess, and just one last thing is definitely, I think a good skill is to scenario plan and build those scenario plans, like what ifs. Even if they don't happen, you come prepared, and you also kind of build up the different, you build that maneuverability. How can you, what things that you think can't change, or you think that, take for granted are absolutely essential, they might be very easy to shift. And you might come up with your best ideas by that. And for engineers, if you're an entrepreneur, don't over-engineer things. Don't make things complicated because it sounds cool. And really, I think one of the biggest skills I've learned is value engineering, and really, what do I need, and just that, and don't over-engineer it.
Simplifies the stuff. I think what we find from ourselves also, the more stuff make it complicated, the more stuff become harder for us to do. Come back for the basic.
Also, the more things that break.
Yeah, the basic, because the basic idea. Come just for the basic idea, make it happen. I think this is what we're finding out. When you come back for the basic stuff, move much faster, much easier. And you have good ideas. Sometimes when you add too much stuff, the idea disappears. Because you add on too much, you forget what you're trying to do. So the idea disappears. I do have a few questions for you guys, and each one answers the way you want to answer it. What your favorite quote?
Quote.
If you have a quote.
I always, when I see quotes, I always save them on my phone, but then I forgot them. But I have a folder where I have But
Okay, share it with us because we're gonna share it with people.
Okay,
We're gonna
perfect.
share it with people. It's the same when you guys share. If you don't have it right now, share it with us. We will share it
Yeah,
with
I'll
people.
share. I'll send that to you. Yeah.
Because people love these stuff, and we see a lot of people love tennis.
It helps. Yeah, they get inspired by it. So
Who's your role model?
Elon Musk.
Mm.
I think he's
All
just
people,
so visionary.
They're not
He's
gonna
so,
be happy with this answer. All people, they're not gonna be happy with it. Yeah. So why?
I'm also supportive of Bayern Munich.
Oh yeah. Well, why Elon Musk? Why Elon Musk?
I think he's a visionary. He stays true
Okay.
to himself. I think he's all in. He could just be on the Bahamas relaxing, but he's just continuing doing the next thing. And I think all in the same, like he wants to make the world a better place. And I think it's very inspiring.
So do you have our model?
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin.
Money. Okay, so
Only non-president on the dollar bill, but yet he's got the most valuable dollar bill under his name.
okay, so
Actually, I just thought about my favorite quote.
sure, go ahead.
So I had a chance to, like, I think it was the founder of CrossFit who once said he came during the NBA and we had a case on him.
He's
and he
from
said,
Maine, yes.
I think
I think
I
he's
don't
from-
remember.
he's from
But
New
he
England
said
area.
a quote. I don't know if it's his, but he said entrepreneurship is providing opportunities for others, and that really resonated with me because I think whatever we do throughout the journey, if we're successful or not successful, I think we have an opportunity to empower others on our team, to give them responsibility. We give them usually more that they can handle and let them run with it. And what we have seen throughout the journey, when people leave, they always, even if they left Smoothie, they went to a better place, got a better job. Or interns then got a job at LinkedIn or at Toast, and then also wrote us emails of saying like how their experience at Smoothie really helped them to get to that next level. And I think that's what is, apart from seeing our customers using the machine, it's just very rewarding to see our own
Absolutely.
team. And our own
I love
succeed.
this. I love this because I feel like we are in the business not developing. This is all the time we say money is gonna come sooner or later. If you do a good job, you do inspire people, money sooner or later is gonna come. I think we are in business developing people, helping people, growing people. Even when we talk about our business development, we don't talk about business. Talk about how many people we're gonna help today. Let's figure out, because I feel this is a little bit different direction. I think a lot of people, they think when they get in business, it's all about making money. And this was sometime, I don't know if this is right thinking. Anything else for the
I think
guys?
that's it. So thank you guys so much for joining. We really appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to Founder Thought. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to podcasts or on the web at founderthought.com. Founder Thought is a production of Pepper Gang.